Welcome to Manhwa Recaps channel, your one-stop destination for the best manhwa, manga, and manhwa recaps. Miss the latest chapters? We've got you covered with in-depth breakdowns and epic highlights. From action-packed battles to heartwarming moments and mind-blowing twists. Join our community and help us reach our next milestone. Your likes, comments, and shares make all the difference. So don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell icon to never miss an update.
This is a world of heroes wielding swords and magic. At this very moment, this place currently has a massive war taking place due to the Demon Queen launching an all-out war against all the races. With the help of the Demon Queen's oppressive strength, the Demon Queen's army was like a hot knife through butter in their attacks, and the empires of the various races fell to ruin, one after the other. Very quickly, only the human race remained steadfast in their resistance. But alas, because of the internal strife and rebellions amongst the humans, their empire collapsed along with their defenses. Humans was taken down as well. And just like that, Elizabeth was dubbed the strongest demon queen in history, as well as secured her position as the only ruler of this world. It's the total domination of the human empire. In the dimly lit chamber of the castle, tension crackled like electricity between Priest Barrow and Malfoy, erstwhile allies now divided by betrayal and bitter accusations. Barrow's voice, thick with defiance, echoed off the ancient stone walls as he hurled accusations at Malfoy, who stood with a sneer, his allegiance now firmly with Queen Elizabeth. Elizabeth herself, a figure of both beauty and power, entered the scene with an air of calm authority. Her presence alone silenced the brewing conflict, her eyes flashing with an intensity that spoke of otherworldly strength. She approached Priest Barrow, her demeanor a stark contrast to the heated emotions that had filled the room moments before. Barrow, undeterred by Elizabeth's formidable presence, continued to voice his fervent beliefs and warnings, driven by a prophecy that foretold the rise of a hero who would challenge the Demon Queen's reign. He spoke of a holy sword embedded in the stone platform of the main hall, a symbol of hope for humanity against the encroaching darkness. Elizabeth's gaze shifted to the legendary sword mentioned by Barrow, her interest piqued by the prophecy that tied her fate to the arrival of this prophesied hero. There was a hint of amusement in her voice as she contemplated the implications of this ancient tale, her mind already calculating the possibilities that lay ahead. Thus began the tale of Elizabeth, the strongest of demon queens, whose path would intersect with that of a hero destined to challenge her rule. In the shadows of the castle, where alliances were fragile and prophecies shaped destinies, the stage was set for a confrontation that would resonate through both human and demon realms alike. Year after year unfolded beneath the unwavering rule of Queen Elizabeth. With each passing day, she remained vigilant, her gaze ever fixed on the horizon, awaiting the arrival of her prophesied enemy. The 15th year of Elizabeth's reign. Under the Demon Queen's absolute rule, all the past practices and inequalities amongst the races were all abolished. Everyone was able to get along on equal standing. Without disputes, everyone was able to live in peace and harmony, developing together. Very quickly, Heroes' Continent began thriving and flourishing. Additionally, because they were afraid of the rare peace being destroyed, an anti-hero alliance emerged. They resolutely rejected the arrival of the prophesied hero. Seated upon her throne, Elizabeth, the formidable demon queen, listened intently to the reports of her chancellors. Twilia, the elf chancellor, spoke first, her voice tinged with frustration over the fruitless efforts to locate the prophesied hero. Despite mobilizing all resources, they had found no trace. Heimerdinger, chancellor of the dwarves, admitted their limitations in gathering intelligence, but assured Elizabeth that no suspicious individuals had been identified through their networks of weapon stores. Aristotle, newly appointed chancellor of the humans, exuded confidence, dismissing the prophesied hero as inconsequential in the face of Elizabeth's power. His assurance, however, was met with a murmur of dissent from Chancellor Jim of the demon race. He quietly reminded Aristotle that Elizabeth did not fear the hero, rather, she eagerly anticipated his arrival, meticulously preparing to confront the prophecy head-on. Mogul, representing the Beast Men, echoed Jim's sentiment, acknowledging Elizabeth's overwhelming might and her ability to swiftly obliterate any threat posed by the hero or his supporters. Twilia, frustrated by the prophecy's influence, lamented Priest Barrow's adherence to what she deemed nonsensical lore. She voiced her belief that under Elizabeth's rule, their realm thrived, and any would-be hero was inconsequential. In the hushed chambers of the demon empire, Elizabeth listened, her thoughts hidden behind a serene mask. Her gaze flickered with a mix of anticipation and calculation. The prophesied hero's forthcoming challenge was not merely a threat but an opportunity, one that would test her power, strategy, and the very foundation of her reign. In a sudden burst of energy, High Priest Barrow stormed into the chamber, clutching a sign and shouting fervently for the rejection of the prophesied hero. His voice reverberated off the stone walls, drawing surprised glances from those gathered. Chancellor Timerdinger, known for his dry wit, remarked on Barrow's timely entrance with a hint of amusement. The priest, undeterred by the attention, continued his passionate plea, declaring himself the president of the Demon Queen Fan Club and the leader of the Anti-Prophesied Hero Association. His fervor spoke of unwavering loyalty to Queen Elizabeth and a vehement rejection of any hero foretold by ancient prophecies. Elizabeth, seated upon her throne, observed Barrow's outburst with a mixture of curiosity and mild annoyance. Swiftly employing her telekinetic abilities, she brought Barrow closer, demanding an explanation for his disruption. Her gaze, intense and penetrating, bore into the trembling priest as he struggled to articulate his reasoning. Barrow, trembling under the weight of Elizabeth's scrutiny, attempted to justify his actions. He argued that prophecies could be surpassed, citing Queen Elizabeth herself as an example of exceeding expectations set by such ancient texts. Malfoy, once a trusted ally turned fierce defender of the Queen, stepped forward to bolster Barrow's argument. He denounced the prophecy as an insult to Elizabeth's greatness, pledging his recent findings in support of their cause. Elizabeth, her patience wearing thin in the face of their defiance, commanded Malfoy to leave her presence. His compliance was swift, acknowledging her authority amidst the lingering tension that hung in the air. In a moment of seething rage, Queen Elizabeth's patience snapped like a taut bowstring. Her advisor's defiant words were met with an explosive outburst, the force of her fury propelling High Priest Barrow harshly against the chamber wall. The impact echoed through the room, a stark reminder of her immense power and the weight of her displeasure. Turning towards the legendary sword embedded in the stone, Elizabeth's features contorted with determination. Her voice, edged with frustration and longing, resonated with the echoes of ancient prophecies and her unyielding ambition. She spoke of having reached the pinnacle of power, holding dominion over her realm and beyond. Yet, her gaze flickered with an undeniable yearning for the prophesied hero, whose absence fueled her anger. "I have prepared for your challenge," she declared, her tone a blend of defiance and anticipation. Her study of ancient magic and relentless perseverance had culminated in the creation of doomsday magic, a testament to her readiness to face the hero foretold to challenge her reign. But his arrival remained elusive, leaving her to grasp at shadows of prophecy. Fueled by resolve, Elizabeth seized the legendary sword with an iron grip, intent on forcing destiny's hand. The sword, a symbol of the hero's destined challenge, resisted her efforts, rooted stubbornly in the stone. The chancellors, witnesses to their queen's unprecedented actions, reacted with alarm and disbelief. Their voices rose in a chorus of urgent pleas and protests, their concern palpable as they grasped the gravity of her intentions. They saw not just a ruler poised on the brink of a precipice, but a realm teetering on the edge of uncertainty, where the clash of ancient prophecy and a queen's unyielding will threaten to reshape their world. With every ounce of her formidable power, the queen exerted herself, channeling her immense strength into the task at hand. The force of her efforts swept aside anyone and anything in her vicinity, leaving a trail of chaos in her wake. As Queen Elizabeth's raw power surged forth, Twilia, the Chancellor of the Elves, stood in awe, barely comprehending the scene unfolding before her. The Queen, against all expectation and resistance, exerted her will upon the legendary sword embedded in the stone. Struggling against the overwhelming force, Elizabeth persisted with unyielding determination until, finally, with a surge of triumphant power, the sword yielded. The chamber reverberated with the sound of her laughter, triumphant and defiant. Elizabeth held the legendary sword aloft, her voice ringing with pride and power. "He who said only the legendary hero can wield this?" Her words echoed off the stone walls, a testament to her unparalleled strength and defiance of prophecy. Momentarily unfocused, she tapped into her mystical abilities, searching for the elusive hero's location. With a knowing smirk, she discerned his hiding place and swiftly began to enchant a teleportation spell. Witnessing the Queen's departure, Malfoy, once her trusted ally turned fervent supporter, felt a mix of admiration and concern flood his heart. "Demon Queen! Please, allow me to continue serving by your side." His plea went unanswered as Elizabeth vanished from the chamber, leaving Malfoy alone in the wake of her departure. In the silence that followed, Malfoy could only whisper reverently, "My master." "Elizabeth." His eyes lingered on the empty space where moments ago, the Queen had stood in a display of unrivaled power and determination. Meanwhile in Newbie Village, Lupin wiped the beads of sweat from his brow, a contented smile playing on his lips. "Farming, it's so peaceful," he remarked to himself. In reality, Lupin was just an ordinary office worker, leading a mundane life devoid of excitement. He wasn't particularly fond of playing games or watching anime, his only source of pleasure was watching his favorite short videos on his phone. However, one day, as he was on his way to work and watching a video, he suddenly found himself transported into a strange and unfamiliar world. Under the guidance of the newbie system, he slowly learned the basic survival skills necessary to navigate this new environment. Although he knew nothing about this different world, it didn't seem to matter to him. After all, wasn't this the kind of pastoral life he had always yearned for? He felt a sense of peace and fulfillment he had never experienced before, and his body felt healthier than ever compared to his days spent in the office. Lu Ping settled into life in the newbie village, content to learn under the guidance of the system. However, when the system revealed his fate as the legendary hero destined to defeat the Demon Queen, Lu Ping adamantly refused. He had no desire for adventure or glory, all he wanted was to live peacefully as a normal villager in the quaint village. Despite the system's persistent urging for him to leave the newbie village and embark on an adventure, Lu Ping remained resolute. To hell with the Demon Queen, he thought to himself. I just want to live like this forever. Within the safety of the time barrier that concealed the newbie village, Lu Ping found solace. Time flowed differently inside the barrier, affording him ample opportunity to pursue his interests. He dedicated his days to activities he enjoyed, such as forging, farming, hunting, and meditation. Though he remained ignorant of swords and magic, Lu Ping found fulfillment in the simplicity of his life. Through completing newbie tasks and exchanging points, he slowly built his ideal pastoral home from scratch, content in his humble abode. Yet one fateful day disaster struck. The system suddenly crashed, leaving Lu Ping alone and bewildered. And just like that, it disappeared without a trace, leaving him to ponder the uncertain future that lay ahead. As Lu Ping toiled away in his farming field, he wiped the sweat from his brow and remarked to himself, "Nice busy day, I'm hungry. The firewood seems to be running low, I'll prepare some first. Alright, I forgot to bring my axe back from the woods when I went out to chop wood in the morning." Unbeknownst to him, the sky darkened, and ominous clouds gathered, signaling the arrival of the Demon Queen. Mistaking the phenomenon for an impending rainstorm, Lu Ping quickly exclaimed, "No way, at this time, it's going to rain heavily all of a sudden? My clothes and dried fish." With a sense of urgency, he hurriedly made his way towards his humble house. The Demon Queen arrived, her presence casting a shadow over the peaceful surroundings. With determination in her eyes, she proclaimed, "I found you, the legendary hero." Lu Ping hurriedly gathered his belongings, a bundle of clothes and a batch of dried fish, before relief washed over him. He muttered to himself about the narrow escape from spoilage, thankful for his prompt action. His electronic dog companion, Wangkai, sensing the urgency, bounded over excitedly. Lu Ping quickly directed Wangkai back indoors as rain threatened to pour down. Suddenly a voice pierced the air, causing Lu Ping to look up in surprise. Floating ominously in the sky above was the figure of the Demon Queen. Perplexed by the unexpected sight, Lu Ping turned to Wangkai, seeking confirmation of what he saw. His confusion evident, he wondered why someone of such stature had appeared in what was supposed to be a safe newbie village. The Demon Queen, irritated by being addressed in such a dismissive manner, snapped sharply in response to Lu Ping's unwitting comment. Despite his quick apology, Lu Ping couldn't shake off his bewilderment at the sudden intrusion into what was meant to be a tranquil and secure setting. The Demon Queen's eyes narrowed with determination as she prepared to confirm her suspicions. Swiftly, she unleashed a spell aimed directly at Lu Ping, who stood below, bewildered by the sudden turn of events. In a panicked reaction, Lu Ping cried out, his hand moving instinctively to shield himself from the impending attack. Yet, to his astonishment, the legendary sword abruptly flew into his grasp, leaving him utterly perplexed. His voice tinged with confusion, he exclaimed aloud at the unexpected occurrence. Meanwhile, Elizabeth, observing the unfolding scene, couldn't help but ponder. She wondered about the sword's seemingly low magical sensitivity, questioning if it concealed a greater power than it let on. Determined to proceed with her plan, Elizabeth declared with unwavering resolve her title as the strongest Demon Queen in history. Her proclamation hung in the air, marking the beginning of a confrontation that would test both her formidable power and Lu Ping's inexplicable destiny. Caught in the midst of this surreal encounter, Lu Ping's bewilderment only deepened at the ominous title bestowed upon his unexpected adversary. Demon Queen? Why is she here? I haven't left this place. His disbelief was evident, compounded by his pet's incessant barking at the imposing figure in the sky. Growing increasingly agitated, Lu Ping snapped at his pet, his voice sharp with urgency. Shut up! Stupid dog, don't provoke her. As Elizabeth gathered her resolve to unleash a more potent magic, Lu Ping's thoughts turned inward. He reflected on the words the system had imparted to him, reminding him of the inevitable meeting between a hero and the Demon Queen. Despite never having ventured beyond the safety of the newbie village, he resigned himself to this destined encounter. With a sigh of acceptance, he released his grip on the legendary sword, preparing for what he believed might be his final moments. Turning away from the looming danger in the sky, Lu Ping began the solemn walk back to his humble home. His steps were steady, betraying a surprising calmness in the face of what he considered the ultimate challenge. He contemplated his journey thus far, acknowledging his status as a novice in this unfamiliar realm. Facing the Demon Queen, whom he had only heard of in tales, now felt like confronting the final boss of his current existence. Arriving at his modest abode, Lu Ping's heart remained tranquil. He spoke softly to himself, expressing a sense of contentment and readiness. There was no room for regret in his voice, instead, a quiet acceptance of the life he had known in this village. Embracing his fate with a serene resolve, he prepared to confront whatever destiny had woven for him. Meanwhile, high above in the sky, Elizabeth's emotions swirled in misunderstanding and frustration. Perceiving Lu Ping's resignation and even a hint of a smile as mockery, she seethed with indignation. Her pride wounded by what she interpreted as arrogance from this unassuming figure below, she resolved to unleash her power in retaliation. Her anger surged, fueled by the belief that she was being taunted by someone who should cower before her might. With swift determination, Elizabeth launched her attack towards Lu Ping's house, intent on unleashing her fury upon him. But just as her magic began to descend upon its target, a sudden transformation occurred. Lu Ping's electronic pet, Wang Chai, switched into battle mode in an instant. It brought forth an arsenal of modern weapons, including machine guns and rockets, ready to confront Elizabeth's impending assault. The electronic dog, Wang Kai, moved swiftly and decisively, intercepting and neutralizing every attack Elizabeth unleashed with surprising agility and precision. Even the formidable Demon Queen herself was taken aback by the dog's effectiveness, which seemed to surpass her expectations. Elizabeth's initial disdain turned into a begrudging acknowledgement of Wang Chai's capabilities. She scoffed at the notion that Lu Ping, a mere newbie in her eyes, would dare to challenge her with an advanced magical tool imbued with sentience. However, her confidence remained unshaken as she prepared another spell, determined to bring the confrontation to a decisive end. Before Elizabeth could execute her next devastating attack, Wang Kai countered with a powerful black beam that streaked towards her. In response, Elizabeth dismissed the incoming threat with contempt, launching her own magic in retaliation. Her command for Lu Ping and his electronic companion to disappear along with the land was delivered with unwavering confidence. To her astonishment, her powerful magic was once again thwarted, neutralized by an unseen force. Elizabeth's disbelief was palpable as she realized that her apocalyptic magic had been cracked. In her fury and confusion, she mistakenly attributed this unforeseen turn of events to Lu Ping and his actions within his home. Inside his humble abode, Lu Ping lay upon his bed, a quiet resolve settling over him as he steeled himself for the inevitable confrontation ahead. His thoughts were focused, his demeanor calm despite the gravity of the situation unfolding beyond his walls. Meanwhile, outside, Elizabeth touched down with a grace that belied her simmering frustration and astonishment. Her initial underestimation of the situation gnawed at her pride, but it also fueled her determination to assert her true power. Her voice carried a venomous edge as she vowed to unleash more of her formidable abilities, warning Lu Ping not to mistake her initial displays for her full strength. As Elizabeth's anger flared, so too did her power. With a surge of energy, she underwent a breathtaking transformation, her form radiating an aura of heightened ferocity and intensity. The air around her crackled with anticipation, signaling the commencement of a battle that would decide the fate of both Lu Ping and herself. Inside his home, an hour passed in an eerie silence broken only by the sound of Lu Ping awakening from his introspective reverie. Slowly opening his eyes, he took in his surroundings with a mix of confusion and relief. Have I already died? He murmured to himself, grappling with the surreal notion that he might have crossed into an afterlife of sorts. Realizing he was still in his familiar abode, the quietude outside struck him as unusual. His thoughts turned to the Demon Queen and the impending clash, wondering if she awaited him outside like a relentless specter. Summoning his courage, Lu Ping ventured outside his house, cautiously opening the door. His heart sank as he witnessed his beloved pet, Wang Kai, ensnared in the clutches of the Demon Queen. Wang Kai! Lu Ping's cry of horror pierced the tense air. Elizabeth, upon seeing Lu Ping emerge, swiftly tossed Wang Kai to the ground with a dismissive gesture. Her words cut through the air with an apology tinged with mockery, claiming she had destroyed the magical tool Lu Ping cherished. Trembling with fear, Lu Ping attempted to reason with the Demon Queen. His plea for understanding fell on deaf ears as Elizabeth's merciless intent to end him was swiftly declared. Yet, as Elizabeth advanced towards him, her mind churned with disbelief. She questioned if this was truly the destined end awaiting her, pushed to her limits in a confrontation with an unexpected adversary. Before Elizabeth could act on her resolve, a sudden change overcame her. She stumbled and collapsed to the ground unconscious. Concern overriding his fear, Lu Ping rushed to Elizabeth's side. His initial terror momentarily forgotten, he called out to her, gently embracing her and checking for any signs of injury. Hey, are you okay? Lu Ping's voice trembled with genuine concern as he tended to the fallen demon queen, his mind grappling with the unforeseen turn of events and the implications it held for both of them. As Lu Ping held her, Elizabeth began to undergo a transformation, her features shifting from her demonic form to that of a human. Her horn and wing slowly receded, returning her to her natural state. Panicked by the unexpected turn of events, Lu Ping stared in disbelief as Elizabeth's clothing began to vanish, leaving her naked body exposed before him. Overwhelmed by the sight, his blood pressure skyrocketed, and a fountain of blood erupted from his nose in a comical display of shock and embarrassment. Elizabeth's eyes snapped open, her mind racing with indignation as she processed the humiliating turn of events. Confined and restrained by unfamiliar handcuffs, she pondered the implications of her imprisonment. Summoning her formidable power, Elizabeth attempted to break free from the handcuffs, only to find herself thwarted by their mysterious resilience. Frustration welled up within her as she cursed the legendary class artifact that bound her. Her thoughts raced, acknowledging that Lu Ping had hidden depths of power that she had underestimated. Surveying her surroundings with a keen eye, Elizabeth concluded that the artifacts were not mere trinkets but formidable tools of a cunning adversary. She begrudgingly admitted to herself that she had indeed misjudged the extent of Lu Ping's abilities. The silence was broken by Lu Ping's hesitant voice as he entered the room, carrying food for Elizabeth. Her defiance remained palpable as she declared her readiness to face whatever fate awaited her. Caught between fear and determination, Lu Ping sought a peaceful resolution. He attempted to reason with Elizabeth, his words tinged with uncertainty as he approached her cautiously. However, Elizabeth's mind, clouded by anger and suspicion, misinterpreted Lu Ping's intentions once again. In her imagination, his words twisted into a veiled threat, painting him as arrogant and dismissive of her power. She imagined him demanding obedience under the guise of negotiations. As Lu Ping unlocked the handcuffs, he sought to prove his sincerity. Well, I've unlocked the handcuffs to prove that I really have no ill intentions. So as promised, let's talk. He urged, hoping to initiate a dialogue with Elizabeth. However, Elizabeth remained silent, her thoughts consumed by the unfavorable situation she found herself in. Damn, the current situation is very unfavorable for me. Strong individuals know when to bend and when to stretch. I'll endure you for now, but you'll regret your arrogance later, she thought to herself, her resolve unbroken despite the setback. As Lu Ping attempted to engage Elizabeth in conversation, her silence weighed heavily on his uncertainty. Mistaking her lack of response as a rejection, he suggested she rest, hoping to ease the tension hanging between them. Turning his attention to Wankai, his damaged electronic pet, Lu Ping couldn't help but express concern. "Oh Wankai, you've become such a mess." Elizabeth observed the broken device with skepticism, questioning its significance as a powerful magical tool. Lu Ping hesitated briefly, reflecting inwardly on the truth behind Wangsai's creation. Downplaying its importance, he explained it was merely something he had crafted out of boredom. Elizabeth, however, seized upon the opportunity presented by Wangsai's state. Crafting a deceptive plan, she suggested that once her handcuffs were removed, she could secretly use her magic to recover swiftly. She insinuated that without Wankai, Lu Ping would be vulnerable, tipping the scales of power in her favor. Masking her true intentions behind feigned remorse for damaging his creation, Elizabeth prepared herself to strike at the unsuspecting Lu Ping. Unaware of Elizabeth's deceit, Lu Ping responded casually, reassuring her that the memory card was intact. Meanwhile, Elizabeth steeled herself to exploit this moment of vulnerability. She saw it as her best chance to eliminate Lu Ping, the supposed legendary hero once and for all. Her determination hardened as she readied her magic, plotting the downfall of her adversary. In contrast, Lu Ping remained oblivious to Elizabeth's true intentions as he continued to share details about Wankai. Opening a wooden vault, he revealed numerous spare parts for his electronic companion, showing his preparedness despite the current situation. Inserting a memory card into the newly activated Wankai, Lu Ping powered it on. He spoke fondly of having a companion, albeit a sometimes naughty one, explaining how he usually kept it deactivated while at home. His demeanor, light-hearted and relaxed, contrasted sharply with Elizabeth's calculating resolve. Observing the powerful electric pet being reactivated, Elizabeth quickly cancelled her plan. Her disbelief was evident as she muttered to herself, realizing that Lu Ping had once again outmaneuvered her. He had become an undefeated enemy she couldn't confront at her leisure. Her momentary fear was diverted by an unfamiliar scent in the air. "What's that smell?" she asked, sniffing around curiously. Lu Ping responded nonchalantly, explaining that he had made some food to warm her up after she fainted. With an arrogant expression, Elizabeth dismissed his gesture, claiming that only the weak needed to eat. She boasted of her transcendent state, asserting that she didn't require such things. Despite her denial, Elizabeth couldn't ignore the tempting aromas wafting through the air. Lu Ping, noticing the change in her demeanor, eagerly seized the opportunity. He explained that the dishes were made from vegetables and grains he had grown himself, completely natural and homemade. He offered her a selection of the dishes, hoping to appeal to her senses and perhaps soften her disposition. Unable to resist the enticing aroma any longer, Elizabeth succumbed to temptation and took a bite of the dumpling. Lu Ping watched with a worried expression, wondering if the Demon Queen, with her lofty status, would appreciate the simple food from the newbie village. As the dumpling burst with flavor in her mouth, Elizabeth's senses were overwhelmed by the explosion of taste and magical energy. Each bite brought forth meat juices that erupted like fireworks, delivering a natural and unadorned flavor. Moreover, the dumplings contained a high concentration of magical energy, a delicacy she had never encountered before. The Demon Queen marveled at the dish, savoring each mouthful and quickly devouring the dumplings. However, as she swallowed the last bite, Elizabeth's cheeks flushed with heat, and she felt a fiery sensation spreading through her mouth. The intense spiciness caught her off guard, and she struggled to cope with the unexpected heat. Feeling betrayed and suspicious, Elizabeth demanded an explanation from Lu Ping. She couldn't comprehend how this seemingly innocent food could be so potent. Her mind raced with thoughts of treachery. She speculated that the hero had added something to the food, perhaps with malevolent intent. Lu Ping nervously explained that he had added a bit of chili according to his own taste, unaware that the Demon Queen might not handle spicy food well. Elizabeth's suspicions deepened. She began to believe that the hero had imprisoned her for nefarious purposes, using her as a subject for his research experiments. The initial warmth and hospitality she had felt now seemed like a cruel ruse, designed to mask a darker agenda. In the midst of her discomfort, Elizabeth's resolve hardened. She vowed to remain vigilant, determined not to be deceived by the hero's seemingly benign actions. The spicy encounter had only intensified her distrust and her determination to find a way out of her predicament.